order the Tiverton Town Council regular meeting of Monday, December 9th. We can start by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councillor Perry,
Present.
Councillor Edwards,
Present.
Councillor Clark,
Present.
Councillor Hilton,
Present.
Councillor Cook, Councillor Medeiros is,
Councilor Medeiros called me to say that she was running a smidge late getting out of her house, but she'd be here momentarily, so I expect
Okay.
her shortly.
and Councillor Driggs is absent. I haven't heard from her. Is anybody?
Okay. Consent agenda. Item A, approval of town council minutes, November 12th, 2019. B, acknowledge receipt of minutes from boards and commissions, one set from the Harbour and Coastal Waters Management Commission and two sets from Tiverton Open Space. Item C, acknowledge receipt of reports, the town administrator, police and fire department overtime reports, town administrator department monthly reports 2019. Item D, approval of tax assessor abatements. Would anybody like to remove any of those items?
Madam President,
Yes, John.
motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. I would actually like to remove something which is C1, police and fire department reports. I don't know, I can find the police report, but not the fire department report in here. Am I missing something?
On the backside?
On the back.
Oh, never mind, thank you. Okay, in that case, I have a motion, was there a second?
Yes.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Okay. Open public forum. Madam Clerk, did anyone sign up? Okay. Public hearings advertised. Town council sitting as a board of licensing. The first is an advertised public hearing for Locals Incorporated, does business as Locals Burger and Cocktail at 4 Stafford Road, requesting approval for a Class BV liquor license. Anyone on the council? Any questions or comments? Madam Clerk.
Madam President, I just want to make it known that we did receive the certificate of good standing, came in today as well. It's not in your packet.
No other comments? In that case, this is a public hearing. Would any member of the public like to be heard on this? Going once? Second call? Last?
I have a quick question. Is that restaurant already open serving liquor? Isn't that at the casino?
No.
No,
That
it's
is
the old
Old
lyrics.
Benjamin's
It's the old
lyrics.
lyrics.
Okay. Fine, thank you.
Madam President,
last call from the public? Okay. John?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the Class BV liquor license for Locals Incorporated, DBA Locals Burger and Cocktail at 4 Stafford Road.
I'll second it.
Subject to meeting all legal requirements?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. The second is a non-advertised hearing for Locals Incorporated, does business as Locals Burger and Cocktail at 4 Stafford Road, requesting approval for entertainment and victualling licenses. Questions, comments from the council?
Is this a public hearing?
What kind of entertainment, and is it, what's the noise on it?
That's, my question was gonna be the same thing.
Yeah. Or is there any representative? Why don't you come on up and introduce yourself, and maybe you can answer some questions for us? Yep, or, well,
Anywhere?
where's the chair? There's usually a chair at the table, but
Why don't you grab,
Nancy,
there you go, grab that one.
there you go, and you can sit down.
Nancy, just a quick question. Did they have a limited entertainment license when they were open as lyrics? They couldn't do outdoor, and they had time limits.
Well, he has the time he wants
Okay.
entertainment on his
But
application.
what did lyrics have? Do you remember? Because that was a big deal with the neighbors.
I don't remember, I could look.
It says indoor only.
Hi, Kevin Ames, Local Z. Literally, I'm looking to do 1 or 2 men on, or women, on a Friday, Saturday night, acoustic, small amplification inside. In the future, you know, I'd love to chat with you about possibly doing a Sunday afternoon outside, but that's way down the road. So that's what I'm looking for as far as entertainment. We're looking to close at 10 o'clock on Friday, Saturday. That's when the music stops. We're becoming a restaurant.
All right.
Any other questions or comments from the council? This is a public hearing. Are there any members of the public who'd like to be heard on this? Second call? Last opportunity? Okay, we'll close the public hearing then.
What's the matter?
Madam President?
Hang on just 1 second.
Okay.
We good? Okay. Yes, John?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the approval for the entertainment and vittling licenses for Local Z, DBA Local Z Burger and Cocktail, 4 Stafford Road.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? Congratulations and
Good
best
luck.
of luck.
Thank you. Hopefully, we'll see you all.
When's the ribbon
Outdoor entertainment.
Next, we have Psychology Studio Incorporated, 1150 Stafford Road, requesting approval for a holiday license. Madam Clerk, is this all complete?
Yes, and there's no fee attached to a holiday license.
Questions or comments from the council?
Whereabouts is 1150 Stafford Road?
It's behind Muddy Moose.
Yeah,
Okay,
where
that's
Future
what I-
Scholars is.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any questions, comments?
Is this open for public hearing or?
It is.
Okay.
So if there are no questions from the council, are there any members of the public who wish to be heard? Second chance? Final call? In that case, we'll close the public hearing.
Madam President?
Yes, John?
Motion to approve the holiday license for Psychology Studio Incorporated, 1150 Stafford Road.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor? There we go. Moving on to appointments and resignations for the Harbour Commission, 9-member board. There are 2-year terms. There's 1 vacancy. We've interviewed 1 candidate. There was a second candidate, Madam Clerk, that we were waiting to meet. Mr. Sundberg, is he here? Oh, Mr. Sundberg, would you like to come up and join us? Sure. And just grab the chair. And we should leave the chair there.
You should just leave it there when you're done.
So, Mr. Sundberg, we have your application. If you could just tell us a little bit about your interest in the Harbor Commission?
Well, I've attended probably 6 of the last 8 meetings. I've been very interested in the materials that they've been dealing with and the issues that they're confronting. I live on the water. I'm a boater. I've been a member of the United States Power Squadrons for probably the last 25 years. I teach boating courses. I teach celestial navigation, if anybody's interested. And I really care about the water, and I care about boating, and I care about the environment, and I figured it would be a good fit for me.
I'm pretty impressed. You've been to 6 of the last 8 meetings. That's pretty good. Any other counselors have any questions or comments for Mr. Sundberg? Okay. So our general policy when we have more than 1 application is that we see, for an open space, is that we see the candidates and then we make an appointment at the next meeting. But thank you very much for applying. It looks like you're a great candidate, and I'm especially impressed that you teach celestial navigation. That's it's pretty cool stuff and a bit of a lost art.
It is a lost art. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Madam Clerk, will you put that on our next agenda for an appointment? Thank you. Bids and requests for proposals, we don't have any. On to general business. Town Administrator Jan Reitzma, request approval to renew the 3-year employment contract with Senior Services Director Janet Holmes and to increase her salary from $57,222 to $58,336. Jan?
Thank you. Janet asked if she had to be here this evening, and she lives a bit of a distance away, and I didn't think it was absolutely necessary, so that's why she's not here. Her contract expires in January, so we're trying to be ahead of the curve with at least some of these. And you should have received a confidential copy of the performance evaluation, which was positive, and based on the performance, I recommend that the council approve a new 3-year contract, as well as a 2% salary increase, and allow me to sign the new contract. You also have a fiscal impact statement.
Madam
I
President?
don't know if I have a fiscal
I don't
impact.
have a fiscal
It's
impact
on
statement.
the back of the agenda request.
I don't even have her.
No, we got that before.
No, we got it at the last
Yeah,
meeting.
it was in,
Oh, on the back of here.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
that's where it is.
that's why you gotta use digital. One page for everything. No
Yeah.
wasted trees.
I do have a question for the clerk. Madam Clerk, these have to be posted?
For charter, they have to be posted 3 days prior to
Was it?
the meeting that it's discussed at.
Okay, and this was posted? Okay, just double checking.
It actually was posted even at the
last
last
meeting.
meeting as well, but it was
But this was not right.
right, but it was re-put out here. and posted.
Okay. Council comments, questions?
Madam President?
Yes, John.
In keeping with our solicitor's desire to see us do Robert's rules correctly, I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract with Senior Services Director Janet Holmes, including the salary increase from 57222 to 58336.
Second.
Madam President, one bit of discussion.
Yes, go ahead.
You mentioned it was a 2% increase. I did the math. It was a 1.94%. So just figured I'd put that out there. Seems like we're getting a deal.
Give her an extra 2 cents.
Whatever.
Anyone else? Any other comments? I'd just like to say that I think they're doing a great job up at the senior center. I was there for the sale this weekend, and it was really wonderful. And just to reiterate, I happened to run into Janice, obviously, at the sale, and she asked about being here tonight, and I said, it's not necessarily necessary, especially if it's terrible weather. So I had told her that that wasn't necessary either. Anyways, I think they're doing a wonderful job up there, and I think the directors really instituted some great programs, and it's going swimmingly. So there's a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor? Okay. Item B, Town Administrator request approval to extend employment contract with Fire Chief Joseph Mallow upon successful completion of probationary period, and approval of proposed salary increase as of January 1, 2020 from $80,000 to $83,851, as well as a clothing allowance of $1,300.
Thank you. You have a relatively elaborate agenda request in the packet, and with it, also a fiscal impact analysis, as well as a draft amendment to the existing contract to provide for a salary increase. The chief is here. He has, or is about to complete his 6-month probationary period. I believe it's tomorrow. And as my clarification indicates, in my opinion, he has done an outstanding job basically turning that department around and getting it from a rather negative situation to what is currently, in all respects, a very positive situation, including not just morale, although that has been an important issue as well, but creating order and balance in that department, taking initiatives to improve the management structure, taking initiative to tackle things like having a better training program, et cetera, et cetera. I strongly recommend that the contract be continued with him based on his performance. In addition, I am recommending that the salary be increased. And as you know, the current budget provides one number. The chief started at a significantly lower number. And the question is whether the council can agree that we need to raise that salary up to reflect both his performance and to deal with some of the gaps, I would say, between the fire chief salary and other salaries, including in particular the police chief's salary. It says here that the proposed increase would reduce the difference with his current salary by 50%. And as some of you know, I had originally proposed to that the council approve a larger increase in 2 steps, one as of January 1st, and then once again in July 1st of the next year to pull it up to the budgeted level. It was clear after a little bit that there was a lot of pushback against that. It obviously is a very significant increase. I believe it can be justified, but on the other hand, I also understand why it's too much to bite off in one piece. So the current proposal is to increase it by $3,851 as of January 1st. The additional increase has to do with the clothing allowance, which for some reason has been lacking from his contract. Again, pointing out that in the police department, the practice is that the chief has a similar allowance as the employees have. So my proposal is to include that in the fire chief's contract as well. And I do know that his performance evaluation is the subject of part of the executive session tonight. So I don't know if you wish to wait until after that, or?
Question. I have a question. When we did hire him, we told him that an EMT license was required. Has he met that yet?
Chief?
Why don't we ask the chief to
Yeah.
sit?
Because, am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I'm scheduled to start the EMT class in January through a company that the fire department has an agreement with. There were 2 different companies, and the agreement is we let their students ride with us to complete their ride time, and in turn, they either give us a break or in some cases, it's free for the class. So I'll be starting in January.
And how long is that course? I forget.
It's starting January. It's at least a few months, if I'm not mistaken.
I want to say 3, but I don't know if I'm right.
12 weeks, I
12
believe.
weeks.
Yeah.
I believe 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of that, you hopefully will pass and,
I sincerely hope so.
okay.
Yeah, that was the same question I had.
Are we going into executive session, or do you want to vote now?
We are. I would suggest, since we have the chief's performance evaluation on in executive session, that maybe we take that up first and then come back out into open session afterwards to continue this item. So
I just have one other question. Can we talk salary in executive session? We can only talk performance, right, not the additional salary. So we can't, okay.
I mean, to the extent those 2 things are tied together, I think you have some flexibility, but really, the salary discussion should be held out in public session, and the performance evaluation should be taken on its own in executive session, but not beyond what's in the performance evaluation. So,
Okay, so the vote, well, of course, the vote has to be taken here anyway, but in that back room, we can't talk about this salary increase.
only in as far as it relates to performance. So there's a little but we will have the
So,
solicitor, we will
Gio-
have
I
the.
was going to say,
we
Gio will
have
be
the
there to keep us
solicitor-
in
Yeah,
line,
I'll keep you in
to
line.
make
We
sure
will
we don't
have the
go
solicitor
astray.
there with us to make sure that we don't stray from anything. But if we're going to do that, do I need
Councilor
a,
Medeiros has a question I can see.
Why are we going into executive, though? Because we didn't go into executive with the other performance evaluations.
I think it's at your discretion whether you choose to do that. It's certainly your option. You're right.
That, it's just.
And one thing if I may, I personally think it's, well, I guess that could be done here too, but certainly one of my expectations was that there could be a direct conversation between the council and the chief, because you really haven't had a chance to speak with him about what he has done so far.
We could do
in
that
the
at
department.
home.
Yeah, you could do that here too.
My only other comment is that if you do choose to go to executive session, then come back out for a vote, then I would suggest you have a procedural vote right now to defer this measure to the end of the agenda, post-executive session, so that it's not a new agenda item. You're simply shifting the placement of this item on the agenda for the vote after executive session.
Madam President,
yes, John?
I'd like to make a motion to continue item 11B to post-executive session.
Isn't the person allowed to say whether he wants it in the open or not? Isn't that also?
I had asked
He has.
him.
He already has.
What's the,
He's asked
going into?
He's fine with having that discussion in executive session. Typically, the question is whether he insists on having it in open session, and he does not. And if I'm not mistaken, he prefers to have a frank discussion
In the open session?
no,
In
in
the
closed.
An executive, okay.
Yeah.
I'll second it then in that case.
Okay, there's a motion and a second then to continue this item back in the open after executive session. All in favor? Okay. Thank you, Chief. We'll see you again in a little bit. Item C, Town Administrator Reitzma request approval to amend the 3-year employment contract with Tax Assessor David Robert to increase his salary for the second year of this contract from $75,090 to $76,592.
Thank you. The assessor's year also runs out today, very soon, the day after tomorrow. And again, you have the backup for this recommendation to extend the contract and also a fiscal impact statement. And the recommendation is to, in fact, extend the contract, but also approve a 2% salary increase, which is consistent with the existing budget.
Madam President,
Yes, John?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the amendment to the 3-year contract with the tax assessor and increase his salary for the second year of the contract from $75,090.36 to $76,592.17.
I'll second that.
Comments or discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, John?
piece of discussion for the administrator. I did the math. This is actually 2%.
Excuse me?
This is 2%, this one.
It is 2%.
So we're not getting a deal on Dave.
We always get a deal on Dave.
Any other comments or questions?
I just want to ask a question in general, not specifically to this, but in general for all the contracts. I mean, it says a 2%, but then when I look at the salary, what is this called again? The back part?
The fiscal impact.
Statement. The percentage is really high for each of the bullet points. It ends up like FICA is 7.65, and then MERS is 3.97, and then you've got resulting increase from FICA expense is 7.65. So how does that work, that it's only 2% when,
So
in general?
the real increase is in salary, but because the salary increases, the amounts that we pay for FICA and MERS and TIA also increase. The percentages are not set by us. It's not something that we directly control for those aspects of the salary.
So the 2%
The
then.
2% is your choice, whether or not you approve that. The percentages for FICA, MERS, and TIA CREF,
What is the total increase then? I mean, we're not talking 2%. We're talking 2%, but we're really not talking 2%. It's really a big percent.
Can I
It's bigger
say,
than the 2% because of all the resulting increases.
say something? Donna, when we budget this 2% in the salary, we make sure that it reflects it throughout every single one of these items.
Okay.
So, am I correct?
Yes.
So every single one of these items are budgeted for this year. So when we say we budget 2% for him, then the treasurer will go through each item to make sure that we have it budgeted.
I think what Councilor Cook is asking is the base salary is increasing 2% precisely.
Correct.
If you looked at total salary and benefits, what would the percentage increase be?
Yeah.
Because I think because of the way the benefits are calculated, it would be slightly more than 2%. I don't know how much. Is
It's,
that fair?
Well, I just think it's, to be open about the increases, it's only fair that the taxpayer really know what the increase is.
if I'm not mistaken, it's still 2%.
I don't know, it doesn't look like that to me.
2% increase in the base salary, as well as 2% increase in the FICA and the MERS and the
all right, so we're,
TIA CREF.
Madam President?
Yes, John?
If I could just jump in here really quickly. I think where we're getting hung up here is that it's a 2% increase in the salary, but things like taxes and employer-paid taxes, that's not something we can control. So if it impacts how much we have to pay in employer taxes, then we have to eat that impact, that increase. I'm having trouble understanding what we're getting hung up on here, because if we're voting to increase a salary, obviously that's going to change things like the cost for taxes, the cost for the percentage we have to put away into MERS, and these are all factored in, which is why we have this fiscal impact statement, so you can see that, and it is posted so everybody can see that if they'd like to. I'm just confused as to why why we're stuck up on this discussion.
Madam President.
Well, I don't know, I think it's an important discussion.
Yeah, I just want the public to make aware that all these other increases is less than $200. So it's not like a huge increase, right, for FICA and MERS?
No,
It comes out to like less than $200.
It's up to the council whether you want to change the policy, how you review these proposed salary increases, but it's my turn to say we've always done it this way, no. Which I hate to say, by the way. But typically, what comes before you is an increase in the base salary. And for purposes of full disclosure, we also disclose what implications that has for the portion of payout that is for MERS and FICA and TIA CREF. But the actual increase to be approved is in the base salary. The other thing, if I'm not mistaken, is that when you look at the budget reflects the salaries. The benefits are in a different part of the budget, and they're covered in a different part of the budget.
Yeah, but this increase is reflected in there, I believe.
Correct.
Okay.
I think to Denise's point, though, I mean, the resulting other increases, FICA is $114, MERS is an additional $44, and the TIAA CREF increase is $15.02. So, again, these are not very, significant increases. And I'm not even sure that you could calculate this any other way, because if I'm not mistaken, some of these things have levels or categories or ranges based on where your salary is. So you couldn't even back into this if you wanted to. I think that,
Madam President, I just did a quick calculation based on the fiscal impact statement, and in fact, because the health insurance doesn't change, the dental, the life, the stipend, those don't change, you're actually netting out a just over 1.5% increase in total compensation. So it's actually less than 2% when you look at the full package.
thank you, Gio.
That's what we're
Right.
doing.
Madam President?
Yes, John?
If I could just add one more piece, I think where Councilor Cook is getting confused, now that I look at it again, is it says here that, results in an increase in FICA expense of 7.65%. I think that that's just showing what the FICA expense is, but the actual increase in FICA is not 7.65%. That's the employer's calculation. Same thing with MERS. Our contribution is 2.97%. And then the same thing with the TIACREF component. Our contribution is 1% of that number. So the administrator is correct in these numbers, because ultimately, these increases are not reflective of that percentage that you see to the left. That percentage you see to the left is the percent used to calculate what the dollars should be.
Okay, thank you.
So now we can move the question.
Any other comments, questions? There's a motion and a second then, right? I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. You're welcome, Dave. Town Administrator, approval of budget transfer from account 1020-6890, the council contingency, to 1140-7530, the land use software maintenance, for $9,760. Jan?
Thank you. This request is the result of our failure, I'll say my failure, to include this item in the proposed budget for the current fiscal year. It relates to the Viewpoint program, which is the program that we currently use to do online applications and processing of applications for the building related licenses and permits. As you know, we joined that program, which was initiated by the state and is now being used by the majority of municipalities in town, because it makes things significantly easier ultimately for applicants. It expedites the process in many ways, and it allows us to actually improve our records and retrieval of records. So it was decided some time ago by the council that it was the right way to go and to go forward with this program. We adopted it, we implemented it, but we did not budget for the annual invoice that we get for the number of transactions that we process, because the fee is based on the number of transactions. I will say that the overall contract is essentially one negotiated by the state, so the terms, we don't have a whole lot of discretion to change them. I do believe that municipalities like ours want to talk to the state and see if the state can make an effort to reduce the fees, but at this point, the fees are what they are. They're based on the number of applications and other transactions that we process. So the total bill for the year is $9,760. At the time that we did the budget, we didn't have a building official in that office. The budgeting was done sort of, without the benefit of having someone look at the entire budget that the department needed. But I'll take responsibility for not thinking of it myself and not including it. So the bill came in, and all of a sudden we realized that we didn't have an account for it. So the question is if you are willing to take money out of the contingency fund to cover it for this year, and we'll make absolutely sure that it's properly accounted for in the next budget proposal.
Madam President?
Yes, John?
You're going to make a motion?
Yeah, unless you would like to. Okay. Just trying to move this along quickly. I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget transfer from the council contingency to land use software maintenance in the amount of $9,760.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Discussion, questions, comments? I have a question then. So this is a cost per transaction?
Well, it's done in blocks, I believe, like for 500 or, I don't know, Dave may actually know a little bit about it, but they charge you by blocks of transactions. I think each block is 500 or something.
Dave, do you know?
It's so quiet.
Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, not entirely, but Jan's correct, that the outside vendor, they charge us in blocks of 500 transactions, and included in this fee is the annual maintenance fee of a transfer from my database into Viewpoint, which updates all the ownership information of all the parcels. So so the building official's office has the correct ownership information
And that works pretty seamlessly
for those departments, yes.
for the building official and your office?
Correct.
Not for a few others, though? Yeah.
Well, my office, we have an issue with it, but since we're transferring over to new software, that issue is going to go away.
So do we have an idea of?
And this also, by the way, includes the checks that need to be provided by the fire department, police department.
Correct.
So it includes everyone that needs to check, sign off on building-related permits and licenses.
Correct, including the tax collections office.
And by the way, the fees were part of the contract that you approved. So there's really no excuse for it not to be included in the budget, but it was approved.
So in addition to this, is there a separate annual maintenance fee, or is this the whole thing?
This is it.
This is the whole thing. And I don't have any frame of reference here on the number of transactions for, like, is this really fungible? Like, if we have a busy year next year, it could be $20,000? I mean, does anybody have any idea of roughly?
It does go up. The one thing I would like to add on that is that I think it's important to look at this as a cost of doing business, which in the context of building-related permits should affect the fees that we charge. So that's one thing that I've asked the building official to do is, first of all, you already have directed us to try and work with the state building official to revisit the fees that we currently can charge. But in that context, we should evaluate whether those fees adequately would reflect this particular cost. I do think there is a balancing to be done in that regard. It's fair to, I believe, charge people who benefit from this process for the cost of the program. At the same time, it's part of the service that the town wants to provide as well. So there's a bit of a balancing going on, I think, or there should be.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, in that case, there's a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay. On to other items. Town administrator, temporary absence.
I actually had expected to have to take some leave this month. I have to have an operation and was originally supposed to be scheduled this month. I only heard yesterday or the day before that it wasn't going to happen this month. It will actually be next month. So there's no reason for this announcement at this particular time other than to give you additional heads up. The plan is that I'm not going to be out in the sense that I'm not available to do any work. I'll be working remotely for some period of time. I'm certainly available via both telephone and email, and I might actually get more done.
And when you do know, you will let us know that so we can make arrangements for.
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have any other things?
No.
Madam President,
Yes, John?
I just have a quick question for the administrator. Do you have the appropriate technology to work remotely? Do you have the laptop and all that stuff you can take? Okay, just want to make sure.
And I'm just testing it out now so that the VPN connection will work.
Perfect.
I'll have access not just to what's on the computer, but what's here on the server, so.
Madam Clerk?
I actually have a couple of announcements. I'm wondering whether the council will be canceling that December 23rd meeting before I start to schedule things for it. So I'm looking for a response.
I'll make a
on it.
motion that we cancel the December 23rd meeting.
Well,
I don't
can
think
you
we
make a
can.
motion on it? Let's just schedule it. So, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because I believe there's
Is the
some
concern-
councils that won't even be here December 23rd, correct?
So sort of poll, is anyone here desperate to have a meeting on December 23rd?
If you put a gun to my head and said you got to be here, I'd be here, but I would prefer not to be.
I'm not going to do that. So I don't think that, given that it's the day before Christmas Eve, that there's any strong compunction for that meeting on the 23rd.
I wouldn't be here, but I would
You
stick it
already,
with
you already
Jeannie.
heard my decision. I wanted to make a motion.
Okay.
Also, last week, we distributed the annual calendar of meetings for next year. That has to be, all the boards and commissions have to post that before January on Secretary of State's. And I just wanted to bring to your attention a typo on September. It says September 20th, it's September 28th. So it's not posted yet, it'll be posted correctly, and we'll redistribute this out to you. Also, regarding fishing and hunting licenses, Tiverton is one of the few communities, very few communities left that issue fishing and hunting licenses. Partly because the state has, in fact, the state has actually changed the licensing section for this, and they used to say authorized agent of any city or town, now they just say any person or corporation, because it's done online or through the DEM. The only community I could find that is still doing this is Block Island. I understand they probably have a harder time getting there. We make 50 cents on a stamp and $1 on a license. So for the 6,000 some odd dollars, it's approximately 400 licenses that we have to do through this. We make $300 in a year. It's just not effective for the time that goes into doing these, because there's all kinds of license for this, tags, deer, duck stamps, everything. So I'm going to be discontinuing that service in the clerk's office. I don't know whether we'll put out, if the solicitor thinks we need to get a motion on this, we'll put it on another.
Well, we don't have it,
meeting.
we don't have this on for a vote, so, and I don't
But
know, is
it's-
it, this is,
Well,
this
it's
may
part of
be
our
at the clerk,
fees.
this may be at the clerk's, is it the clerk's discretion, or is?
I haven't looked at the statute. Nancy just raised this with me tonight, so I'll look at it. If I feel like you need to have it on the agenda, I'll certainly suggest that, but I suspect that you might not.
Okay, all
It
right.
wouldn't be till January anyway, and we'd have to put a little note in there, but most of the other communities, and I mean, I've got them from all over the state, they ended this last year, but we've continued, and what's happened is we're getting a lot more in Tiverton, because there's really no place like Portsmouth, Compton, Newport, Middletown, Providence, all this, none of them are collecting it anymore. None of them are doing it. It's a state license with their agent, and we'll get 50 cents on them, or we'll get $1 on a license. We turn over to the state about $6,500 a year, and we get $300. It's not worth our time in there, it's time consuming.
So,
Madam President.
It doesn't prevent anyone from getting a license, it just takes Tiverton out of the mix.
We could provide a computer for it, for them, because you can do it online, that's the whole idea.
what's that gonna cost?
Is this part of our fee schedule that we approve?
It's not on
every
our
year?
fee
It's
schedule,
not,
because it's
okay.
dictated by the state. It's a
Okay, so it's-
state license.
All right, so it's
They
not
just
on our
pay us
fees that
50
we have
cents or
to
$1 to do it.
approve, okay.
Well, where can they get their hunting and fishing license? What's everybody else doing?
They have to go online and get it, or they go to the DEM.
So it makes
Or
it,
I believe you can also go like to Walmart or
Bake
something,
shops.
can't you? There's
Probably
different
any one of our
places that
gun
do it.
ranges, I mean, Rod and Gun Club's probably doing it.
I think they can under the statute. I don't know about rod and gun clubs, but I can tell you that bait shops will
Yeah.
sell you a license, a state license.
oh, okay.
For fishing.
Just wanna make sure they can get to it.
So I'll run it by Geo, it won't be till the end of the,
it's not
it won't be the beginning of the year anyway, because it's a slow time now. And the last announcement I have is that my, the senior clerk in the town clerk's office, who is the supervising clerk, after, I think it's 22 years, is going to be retiring at the end of the month. Her name's Kathy Wood. She does an excellent job in there, and she's definitely going, she's been there in the clerk's office longer than I have, and she's well-versed in all the running of the front office, so she will be missed, and she's had 22 years.
Well, I know that we don't have this on for vote, and we won't have another meeting, but I'd like to find a way for us, or I'd like to at least express my appreciation to Kathy. She's been always incredibly helpful. She's going to be missed. So I don't know exactly what our options are, but in the absence of a vote, but I would like to definitely find a way to express our appreciation for that many years of service to the town.
We'll try to think of something. And the last announcement, I'm sorry, I promised Barbara Pelletier, who's unable to make it tonight, that I would announce that she is still taking homemade ornaments for the Christmas tree. She has some gifts for however she selects them. And so I told her that I would announce that. That's it.
Yes, Sally?
Sally Black, liaison to the town council. Nancy, can you mention about the joint meeting, please, that we're going to talk about?
Can you hang on just a second there, Sally?
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Okay, thank you.
No, you can stay there. Don't, it'll be soon. Town solicitor?
I have 3 items. One is to just make note that in the matter of Harbour versus the Rhode Island Division of Lotteries, the challenge to sports gaming, there was a decision in the last week to deny the defendant's motion to dismiss on the basis of standing. So if you will recall, there was a case. The case was dismissed because Dr. Herrick was deemed not to have standing to file the suit. Prior to the completion of the dismissal, they amended the original complaint to make note of the fact that he had in fact placed a bet and lost, which altered his position as a plaintiff and potentially gave him standing again. That went back to the judge, and the defendants, the casinos, et cetera, said that's not enough, he still doesn't have standing. Somewhat surprisingly for me, the judge didn't agree with that, and so the case lives. What that means, I can't tell you. Sometime in January, I believe the 10th, although it's not, I don't know if that was finalized as a follow-on date, there will be another scheduling hearing to see where that case goes from this point. But it looks like it is, breathing again, and will continue to be on your agenda for litigation for the near future.
May I ask a question? Why is it on our agenda for litigation? I thought we were not participating in this. I thought the only thing that the council directed was a response to the judge that said, we hope this will be concluded expeditiously, but that was it.
You are still a party to this at the judge's direction, so the town of Lincoln and the town of Tiverton remain parties to this litigation.
But that doesn't require any action.
Right, what action you choose to take. I mean, you can't not monitor it, right? Because at some point, if the judge asks us to do something, we have to be responsive. But that is correct. There is no research, drafting, anything going on relative to this case. I raise it only because it is a case of great significance to a large taxpayer in the town, and I think you should keep apprised of it. But right, you're correct. There's no legal activity relative to this other than just monitoring the notices that are coming through. Second item, in the matter of Durfee v. Tiverton Town Council, an Open Meetings Act complaint that was filed back in relative to an April meeting. I circulated this to the council today, but just to briefly summarize, the Attorney General did find a violation of the Open Meetings Act. There was no intent found to violate it, and there was no penalty applied, much like the last one we discussed a couple meetings ago. And interestingly, the gist of the Attorney General's opinion here is that it wasn't what we thought that they would hinge this on. It was really a question of where the item was placed on the agenda and how it was worded. So we had an item under other items / announcements / comments, and the town administrator had an item called update on fire rescue purchase. What the AG indicated was really twofold. One is that when you say update, that sort of indicates that you're not going to have a vote. And even though we haven't had a bullet, essentially a footnote at the beginning that said we can vote on any item that's on the agenda, They said, well, that's fine, we don't like that, but that's fine, we're not saying that's wrong, but then if you say update, you're contradicting that, and so you're confusing the public. So that was the gist of the opinion, obviously Nancy and I have talked about it, we'll take that under advisement, and then, as agendas are drafted, some thought needs to be given to where things are on the agenda, what category they're in, and how they're phrased. Sorry, I've lost sight of my third. We've also had some activity, generally speaking, on litigation relative to some tax disputes. The four matters that we've had pending for some time, some of them for many, many years, related to tax appeals, have all now been placed on Judge Leach's calendar here in Newport, and at a hearing a few weeks ago, Judge Leach expressed his great displeasure that these things have been festering for so many years, and he is interested in seeing them cleared off his calendar, and very aggressively so. All of the council have taken that to heart, and so we have reopened and continued discussions with some of the plaintiffs in those suits. There's one that I think we are in agreement on and able to settle fairly quickly, but Judge Leach has indicated that we need to be back on the 17th with clear progress or with the president of the council in hand to explain why these have festered for so long. I can say that many of these have not been pursued because they are not ours to pursue. We're not the plaintiffs in the matter, and if the plaintiffs don't pursue it, it's not really in the town's interest to spend legal time and effort to chase down inactive plaintiffs. But I'm not sure Judge Leach agrees with that, so I think we'll have to see how we are doing in the next week or so with these various matters.
When you say there's an opportunity for settling, the council would have to approve any settlement, correct?
Yeah, I think what the judge would want to see is some progress towards that. And as I said, only in one of the cases can I say that we have significant progress. We've had it for some time. It's just been a question of drafting the resolution. But yes, that would all be subject to council approval once those agreements were met in principle.
Madam President?
Yes, John.
Just for the solicitor, you mentioned in passing on several of these items that there's been updates sent out to the council. I haven't received any. I don't know if you have my correct email address or not, but this is the first I've heard of this stuff, so.
Yeah. So there is a litigation summary document that we prepare roughly quarterly. We actually just updated it in relation to an audit for the town, and that once I was on vacation. Once I've had a chance to review it,
it's coming.
It'll go to you within.
Okay.
Well, before I leave, let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Solicitor? Okay, in that case, on to town council things, and I have one, and since Mrs. Black is right here, I'm going to start with that one, which is that Ruth Hollenbach, who's the vice chair of the budget committee, would like to get going on scheduling the required council, school committee, budget committee meeting. By charter, we have to hold that meeting by January 15th, so we have some time to do so. The other thing, traditionally, that meeting is about a 5 or 10 minute meeting where we all go in the room and take attendance, and then everybody leaves, just to meet the requirements of the charter, and we don't really get anything done. But Mr. Larkin, the chair of the school committee, and I had a short conversation about the possibility of having a more substantial meeting, not to go through the budget in extraordinary detail, but to have some sort of conversation where we each laid out kind of what we saw as the big challenges coming up for us in the budget. We know, for example, that we have trash. That's a big thing. So just a chance for both the school committee and the council to kind of put their challenges out there ahead of time, so that everybody knows what everybody else is working on. So maybe a little bit more than the usual 15-minute meeting. Now, I did let Ms. Hollenbach know that the council's a little. We've got a lot of meetings going on right now, and I'm mindful of that. But she did come back with a request for December 18th or 19th. At the same time, again, the requirement on this meeting is not until January the 15th. I don't know if the school committee has that kind of availability, Mrs. Black, in such a short notice.
I know they contacted you about it.
Right. So did you want to come up and say something about it too, Sally?
No, I just wanted
They're not
to
even
say
gonna
that,
be-
I know Dr. Loughlin had contacted you and Mrs. Farnsworth, and we just want to make sure we meet the requirement, but it's not till the 15th.
Okay. So, in that case,
If he said the 2nd or the 7th.
What's that? Could
Madam President,
yes,
we do
you
January
won't even be
6th?
available that week.
How about January 6th? Could we do January 6th? It's a Monday.
How about January 15th?
it is the 15th. I mean, that's the deadline. But as long
So
as we have that
January
meeting by.
6th would be a,
Yes.
That's what I was
Yeah,
saying.
that's all it is. So, so is the consensus, I mean, we don't have to pick a date right this second, but is the consensus to do this amongst the council early in January? Is that the preferred time frame? Sometime in January before the 15th, is that the, I see nodding heads here.
Yeah, there's no way we're jamming this in before Christmas.
No way.
not with every,
Yeah,
Um,
and some of us won't even be here.
Yeah, so why don't we do this? Why don't we ask Madam Clerk, maybe to throw out, I'll help Madam Clerk find some dates in January, and we'll toss those out then, and she can poll, and obviously, it'd be nice for everybody to be there, but what's really required is that we have a quorum, plus at that point, we might have a little bit better information to go on about our budget and, you know, what we see the big things are. So would that work for everybody?
Yep.
sure.
Madam President, if I
Yes,
make
John.
one suggestion, why don't we, I mean, I think we have 2 meetings before the 15th. Why don't we just piggyback one of our meetings?
It has to be a separate meeting.
So we do it at 6 and we're done by 7, we start our meeting at 7?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that I would ask that, because I don't know if there are members of the Budget Committee or the School Committee that might have, that work at maybe 6 o'clock. But, and again, we don't need to have a 3-hour meeting, but I would like to try and have a little more of a, you know, a little bit more cooperative discussion than just the sort of, here we are, take attendance, we met the requirement, off we go kind of thing. So, so maybe its own meeting would be a little better. Plus, out of courtesy to people who might work and might not be able to get there till 6:30 or 7. Okay, so I'll work with Madam Clerk on that. I don't have any other council announcements,
I do.
but Mr. Perry does.
I have 2.
Okay.
I guess tonight's a night for more than one. So, first, I'd like to thank everyone who attended and helped out at the tree lighting ceremony. It was a fun time for everybody who attended. I'd also like to thank the businesses that donated: Dunkin' Donuts, Main Road, Brookdale, Secundit Bay Manor, Coastal Roasters, McCrae's Seafood, Tiverton School Department, the custodians Gary and Patrick, who were fantastic, Fort Barton PTO, the Tiverton Arts Council, Mr. and Mrs. Pelletier, Route 177 Flea Market, Leo's Greenhouses, Tiverton High School Marching Band, the Tiverton Police Department, the Tiverton Fire Department, the Tiverton DPW workers, Manny and Phil, who made sure the tree was lit and working, and the volunteers from the middle school and high school, the kids that did community service, and also, of course, Santa. So I'd just like to mention that.
Santa was really good.
And the other thing I'd like to mention, in keeping with the true upcoming holidays, I would like to make a suggestion to the council that I'd like to place an ad or an announcement in the Secundit Times wishing all of our Tiverton employees, their families, our council, our committee members, and their families a happy holiday season. On behalf of the Tiverton Town Council, the Town Administrator, Madam Clerk, and the Treasurer. Denise, I'd like to do that if everybody agreed to it. Thank you.
I'm good with that.
Madam President, this is an announcement, but I'd like Jan to help me with this. December 16th at the police station, the delegation coming. Just so the whole council knows that
That's correct. It was changed. I thought I forwarded some update on that, but
No.
it was originally on the 10th, I believe, and it was moved to the 16th because we would have a better chance to get some of the congressional delegation here, since they also have to be in Portsmouth. So it's currently scheduled for the 16th, I believe, still at 10 o'clock,
So this is to give us,
to get the big check or whatever from the United States Department of Agriculture that is paying for the 3 new cruisers that we have. And the way we've done it, it also allowed us to buy the new senior citizens bus.
I'm planning on attending, but I just wanted the rest of you to know that this is going on. Trish
That's
will
great
be out of
information.
town.
And that
So,
is when?
the 16th,
At 10 a.m.?
10 a.m. at
Will
the
you-
police station.
Will the administrator or the clerks just send out an email about that?
Send out a reminder.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll remind you.
10 o'clock.
Gio, can you remind Nancy to remind us?
It will be between 10 and 12. I doubt that it's going to be from 10 to 12, but somewhere in the time period, I don't have the exact time yet.
So we will vote by the time it
Yeah.
arrives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other announcements? In that case, may I have a motion to go into a closed executive session?
Want me to do it? Okay. Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to go into closed executive session. Town Administrator 42465A1, job performance, Fire Chief Mallow, notice given.
Second, yes.
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 And continuing in closed executive session, Vice President Medeiros 42465A2, collective bargaining, AFSCME, and Teamsters.
Second.
Second, yes.
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 Yes? Yes. Okay.
We're in executive.
We're now in executive session.
Did you call